Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Brother Yasir and I'm one of the storytellers from Storytime with Emaan. The reason we wanted to make this video was so that you can bring some of our storytelling principles into your own home. Let's first talk a little bit about why we want to teach our children storytelling. The first and most obvious is that we want them to love books. We wanted to get into the habit of reading books daily, at specific times of day, at night. We want it to be a bonding activity, an exclusive, something special, an alone time that we do with our child and the parent. We want them to learn more vocabulary. We want to familiarize them with knowledge of the world, or general knowledge as we say. So the concept of a pirate, the concept of forests, animals, things, nouns, adjectives, verbs, actions. We also want them to learn on a more deeper level common archetypes like heroes, villains. We want them to learn themes like friendship, fear, loss. We actually want them to experience these things through the stories of the characters in the books, not necessarily in real life, or that when it happens in real life, they have something to fall back on, some guidance, because the stories obviously show the character going through something, and so now they learn themselves. Something to note here, as an Islamic parent, I almost always change the story. If I find as I'm reading that something I find is inappropriate or too deep for my child, I always change the words as I go along. In some cases, I completely make up an entirely new story based on what I see in the pictures and let my child follow along. And there's various reasons for this, but the idea is, as parents, we want to shape our children's view of the world and teach them things at an age that's appropriate. We also want to discourage certain types of behavior. So certain characters, like Franklin, for example, is a really whiny character. So I personally don't like those books. But I love the animations, and so we'll invent stories. Anyways, off of that tangent, getting back to our point about teaching our children knowledge of the world, it's very important that we can also teach them Islamic principles. So as you're telling your story, there's a few things you can do. What we generally do in our home is we stop on certain pages and we actually look at the illustration, and I start quizzing my children. I'll say, hey, what's that? Is that a pine tree? What's that? What makes that difference from the other type of tree with leaves? I'll start quizzing, and I'll just start, going and extracting as much as I can out of that page while it's there, while it's captivated his attention. I love looking at illustrations, and I think the children love illustrations as well. And that you can go into the detail. You say, look, the mouse is over here. Hey, look, and all kids' books have those sort of Easter eggs scattered throughout. So pausing on pages. Another thing you can do, and this is one of my favorite things that you can do while we're storytelling, is actually acting out some of the scenes. Whether you do it during the story or after the story, it's a great way to extract more out of the book itself, actually, and engage your child in different ways. So sometimes there's scenes where one character is climbing on the back of the other one. We'll do that. Another time you might see one character leaping from one thing to the next, and so we'll stage it. We'll put two pillows and say, hey, imagine this is the plank and that's the sea, and then you have to jump over. Bringing it to life is so important, because what we're doing inside the child's mind is creating this psychic space. We're creating scenes, and we're making them visualize using their own creative imagination, and it's an active process. It's not like television where they imagine for you and you just watch. With books, it's an active, we're building that psychic space inside their head, and we're enriching them with so much vividness and creativity and detail that they don't actually have to be reliant on books and TV and movies. So I'll give you a quick example. Imagine I said they came upon a ginormous castle. What do you picture in your mind? You probably thought of some Disney movie that you saw when you were a kid. But instead, we have a variety of different castles we've experienced inside our books. And so the child now takes all of those inputs and forms their own view of that castle, and they animate it, and they bring it to life in their own mind. Okay, so let's get to the tactics. Don't tell these to anyone. So I mentioned a couple of them already. So the first ones would be about, as you're going through the story, bringing it to life. Not only through the text, but through how you're speaking. So this is what we're talking about, telling stories from a tactical position. So you definitely want to introduce vocal variety. Vocal variety is a few different ways. There's loudness. So, you softly, gently walked across the planks, and then boom, the door opened. So going quiet to loud and loud to quiet. You also want to change pace. So as he scurried across the floor, the dog chased him, and you know, whatever you're talking about, try to bring it to life, try to intensify the action through quicker phrases. So slowing things down as he fell asleep, and fasten things up as the action proceeds. So that's pace. There's also pitch. Pitch becomes really handy when you get into verbs. So he leaped across the plank, or the lightning boomed across this ocean floor. You know, you know, high pitches and low pitches, and bringing them together, as I just said, really animating the words and the action words in specific. So he jumped, the lightning crackled, and so on. They all really make the story engaging and really fun for the kids. Last thing is gestures. I'm a very animated speaker. Whenever I'm speaking, I actually always visualize floating objects. This is really, maybe I'm the only one who does it. Maybe you do that too. But I picture like things that are in the story. I'm actually an actor in the story. And the pile of sand, you know, the pyramids, or the rainfall. You know, you bring things to life. The car drove. You know, you're really intensifying the action through gestures. And trust me, wallahi, the children love this. When they can participate inside it as well, that's even better. So find ways for them to engage. Why don't you try that with me? Can you pretend like you're driving? And they'll start doing it. And some of them will get up and do some kind of crazy stuff. But you know what? It makes it all more interactive and fun for the children. I also really like incorporating gestures that are not from every day. So I'll give you an example. Anytime there's a victory or a win on TV in basketball, you see that, you know, the players go, yes, or Tiger Woods, you know, his fist pump, or, you know, a runner, a marathon runner, they're like, yes, you know, they do those gestures. And children actually don't really usually do that in day-to-day life unless they're in play. So treating story as play, give them the opportunity to do that. Say, oh, he won the race. Do you want to try that? Why don't you do it like him? Let's do it together. Yeah, he won the race. You know, yes. Alhamdulillah. You know, and so you always try to vividize the story with action and include the child in the process. Those are my best secrets, insha'Allah ta'ala. With these, you can bring this into your home, really become a great storyteller. If you want to learn more, a lot of what I've learned is from an author called Mem Fox, M-E-M-F-O-X. She has videos, blog posts, she has some books that she's written. I personally found an audiobook series in the library, popped it in my CD in my car as I drove my son to school. 3-4 days later, I became this great storyteller. Alhamdulillah, it really helps. So that's a great resource. And there's dozens others on the web. So take this, implement it, try it tonight, become the best storyteller for your child. Inshallah, jazakumullah khairan. See you all at Storytime. Inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.